Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the live broadcast. My name is Josh, and boy, did we ever get a lot of snow here. Probably not as much as some of you did, but I would say we got a solid 8 inches here to a foot. So I don't know what you all got in the rest of the country. I'm just going to click on my own live here, but hopefully you are all safe and sound. And there's the live, and we see everybody starting to pop up. Welcome, welcome, welcome. 8 inches here to a foot. We are still working away, getting shipments packed up and ready to go. And by we, I mean the royal we. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Lots of snow. I've been shoveling all morning and all weekend. My back is broken from it all. I'm sure many of you are in the same situation. For those of you dealing with ice, I hope you're all safe and sound and doing well. It's been a busy, busy weekend. So what's happened? We always start this broadcast off and we talk about the document. What has happened in the past weekend for us with the document? Shelving has arrived. I don't know if I said that already. We've had materials arrive, packing materials, shipping materials arrive. We have, I think, 41 items going out today, or 52 or something. I don't know what the number is. A lot of items going out getting shipped today. That's happening. So that's happened over the past 48 hours. And really a big focus for me, my part of the business, as the two technical co-founders, they're always working on the technical side of things. That's their primary focus. Super Dave is big on the logistics of this place. He is the CEO of this company. And I, this weekend, was focused on safety and compliance. Boring stuff, but it's extremely important. It is a top priority. It's always an A+ priority. So this was a lot of internal documentation that needed to be done. So working on internal registers, shareholder meetings, all that kind of internal stuff that's required. You only notice it if it doesn't get done. So I've been working on that, and that's pretty much kept me busy, along with all the snow, lots and lots of snow. On a personal note, I coached my son's baseball team, the rep team. We had an indoor practice, and I am sore from that practice too. So I went into this weekend with all this snow, aching sore from that practice, because it's going to say, you know what, kids, if I'm going to tell you to do it, I'm going to do it myself. And you know the kind of, I'm still young at heart, and you get out there and you try and push, and then I felt it. So, and after that, it was a lot of snow clearing. So I've got my exercise. I feel good actually about it. I'm sleeping better. So that's all happened. Let's get into the numbers. Enough about the personal stuff. Let's get into the numbers, everybody. How about it? 2 accounts, listeasier_records and listeasier_books. You can follow us on eBay by clicking on our eBay profile and then adding us as a favorite seller. And you can watch what we're up to. We have 5,842 listings live on both sites combined. Huge, huge gains there. This is the big number. This is what we're shooting for. $133,000. 291. Sorry, I should say that again. Say the number properly, Josh. $133,291.58 listed. That's been done over the past 22 days since we've been live. And our total revenue right here, $5,554.18. I think this is incredible. Certainly beyond where I was expecting us to be. So this is huge progress. Super incredible. Team is working like this, and it's really encouraging and inspiring. So we're continuing to move forward with the document. Honestly, it's going to be a lot of this. The title is reliability, basically. But, this is the case with the document is now it's just, the processes are all in place, and we just keep doing them every single day. So it's so process oriented, it's almost boring. I don't want to say boring, but there's not chaos or excitement. It's just reliable. We do this day in, day out. This is the process, and we just keep repeating the process over and over again. So very process oriented, and I will say that's the same with the software. It's just a reliable tool that people use every single day. It's, it's just, it's fun to use because it's like playing a video game and you're listing items, but it's just this reliable thing that people do every single day. And, you know, and here we are. So I'm a little bit off. I've cleared so much snow, I could just close my eyes right now and collapse on the floor. But we're not going to do that, are we? We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. Let's get started with the chat. Good morning, James Helferstay. Welcome, welcome. Kaloop says, hey up, Josh. How's it going? Kaloop, welcome. Bearded Picker Scott says, good morning, eh? Good morning, Scott. Good to see you. I made a short. You can see all the snow here. I think we got about a foot here. A foot. Depending on where you are, the blowing snow is a bit more, but I know just north of here and just south of here, it's like 2 feet, which is not crazy. I remember snowstorms in Buffalo and Niagara Falls where there were 8 feet, where they would shut the highways down. Like you were not allowed to go in and out of the state or travel around the state because it was a declared emergency because the snow was so bad. So we didn't quite get that, but I'm sure some people did. Missy B says, good morning to all. Good morning, Missy. Good to see you. I would imagine not as many people are going to be on this live today. There's a lot that are clearing snow today, working outside. Lucky Fine says, good morning. Good morning to you. Classic Phase says, cheers. Good to see you, Classic Phase. Joe says, good morning. Good morning to you, Joe. Elio Mora, haven't seen you in a while. Good morning. Glad I caught the live. Welcome, Elio. Good to see you again. Joe says it was 57 here in Northern California yesterday. No ice. So nice. I miss Northern California. I really do. Mike Seller, I know you got buried there in South Dakota. Hello, Josh and chat. Good to see you. Andy Reno says, sup, Mr. Galt? -2 with 11 inches of snow. That's what we have about. Maybe a little bit warmer here. It's hard for me to judge the temperature because sometimes I go out, if it's really moist out, I'm like, it is freezing cold, and the temperature is like 40. And sometimes it's -5, I'm talking Fahrenheit, and I'm like, well, it's not so bad, the sun is out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, -5. Primo Chemo says, aloha from the snow. Primo Chemo is going live 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right after I'm done here. So head on over there, check them out if you would like to. We'd love to have you over there joining us in the live chat. Eric Bressy from Ohio says, good afternoon. Good to see you, Eric. Welcome. Behind the Bubble Wrap says, howdy. Good to see you. Snoopy Collector, the red hand. Hello. J.R. Rodeffer, almost forgot you. Well, I'm glad you didn't. Welcome, welcome. Tammy, the Axe Monkey, says, hello, Mr. Josh. Good to see you, Tammy. John J. UK says, good morning, and when you sell an item, does it come off the total listed figure on screen? No. So on your List Easier dashboard, John, if you sell an item, it does not get removed from your total on List Easier because we don't pull any information from eBay. So when you generate listings with us, we push it onto the listing platform. We don't take anything back. Your total listed number, that comes from your sent batches. So whenever you send a batch, we tally up those numbers and then we put them in your dashboard. So you may notice that if you delete all the batches that you've done, you'll still have a total number, but it may kind of adjust where your numbers are on your List Easier dashboard, but it doesn't impact listings. Once you send the listings, it's given to eBay. I think of it like a gift. You give the gift to eBay, you say, here you go. They take it, and then there's nothing we can do. They have it now. It's their present. It's their gift. They take it home. They do what they do with it, but we don't do anything. We can't take any information from them after that. David Runner says, hi, Josh, too old to shovel my own snow. That's what the young guys are for. Get the young guys to do it. I'm starting to feel that way. Not too old, David, but my body is broken from all the years of tunneling. So there are parts of my body where, shoulder and back, where I start to feel it as I get older. Wild in New England. Definitely you're buried there. Says, good morning. I believe your Pats are going to the Super Bowl, aren't they? Where Pigs Fly Farm says, the only thing I like better than listing now is listening to this while shipping. Awesome, Where Pigs Fly Farm. That's awesome. Thank you for the compliment. Yeah, listing is fun. It's like playing a video game almost. It's rewarding. It's, you know, pictures are easy. I don't know. It's kind of fun now. I agree with you. It is fun. Finds of yesterday says, hey Josh, 8 inches here near St. Louis. I was in St. Louis recently to visit James, where we were getting lots of rain at the time. But wow, 8 inches in Missouri. That's incredible. I like St. Louis. We didn't get to go to downtown St. Louis, but we were in the like outskirts near the airport, and we got some Mexican food. I did a video on it if you're ever interested in seeing. But James and I hung out. We had a great time. We talked the entire time, nonstop. Had some good food. Just kind of chilled out. Did some thrifting, and I finds of yesterday. I was blown away by how good the bins are in St. Louis. That is outside the norm. I feel like I just couldn't believe what was going on there. I was shocked. I was like, "This is really like this much stuff?" They had entire bins with just records, like really good records too. Couldn't believe it. CJ Beatty says, great to see everyone here. Good to see you, CJ. Welcome, welcome, of course. Dave's Decade says, hi, Josh. Did my first batch on List Easier this weekend. Now I am kicking myself for not starting it months ago. Thank you very much. Dave, I understand. But, you know, the good thing is if you're using Flex, Dave, that was only launched a little over a week ago. So that's new. The batch listing has always been there. But I wouldn't give yourself too much grief because you're at the front. You know, this is technology that's like 6 months old. It's now in this really like, you know, it's in this phase now where you just kind of get in there and you do your thing, and pretty much everyone accepts that this is how it is now. So you're right at the beginning, Dave, but I get you. I mean, I had a first time using the software too. And of course, back then the way it looked was a lot different than it looks now, but I was blown away. I was like, is this my life now? It's this easy? It's really this easy? And I like it better. I love it better. I like it way, way better. I feel this is gonna sound cheesy, but I feel a little bit alive again where I can do things that I really enjoy doing. Like I can go to the golf simulator for an hour. Well, why not? I can do it. I can catch up. Like I'm not behind on taxes or any of that, like stressing out to get it done. I'm getting it done. I can do all these things now and still list. Feels amazing. Um, Kenneth Oro says, I'm having a lot of issues with the software right now. Kenneth, reach out to me and let me know what's going on, or reach out to customer support if there's something going on. Uh, John J. UK, sorry. I meant your screen on YouTube, the $100 million total. When you sell an item, does it come off the total listed? No, it doesn't. No. Yes, it does. Is that a clear enough answer, John? Yes, it does come off the total listed. Yeah, so we are taking the total listed amount on each account, and then we combine the two together, and then it produces this number here. So yes, it does. Uh, this is the total listed, and then the five. It would have been essentially it would have been $133,800 or so had we not if you added the revenue onto the total listed. I can't, John. I can't get it out today. I'm just so pooched from this shoveling. You know what I'm trying to say? Yes, it comes off. Have a coffee, Josh. Swamp Picker, the man says, "Hey, good morning, Josh." Swamp Picker, Glenn, are you out there? Are you shoveling? Do you have lots of snow out there? Foghorn Lake says, howdy, y'all. All iced in here. Boo, boo, boo. Charlie Lou Coyne says, USPS and UPS carrier pickups are both canceled here today. Well, that's good news. I don't know if they are here or not. I didn't look, but I would imagine that eBay is going to put some protections in place for people. Finds of yesterday said, I saw your pics in St. Louis. Yeah, well, we had a great time. I was, so that was the first time I was in St. Louis for like 20 years. And the first time I had gone, I was a young man. We were on a road trip and we went through and I saw the Ark, and I think we went to the Budweiser brewery factory or whatever it was there, and did the kind of tour there and went downtown, and they were playing kind of bluesy jazz music on the street. I had a lot of fun. That was 20 years ago, at least, maybe longer, maybe 25 years ago. And I had just as much fun with James. Uh, Caesar Nunez says, hi, Josh. Silver 100, gold 5,000. Crazy times. I hear you, Caesar. It's changed my life, man. You all know it. Anyone who's been following me a long time, it's totally changed my life. My life has changed so much in the past year. I can't even, it's totally changed my life. Wild in New England says, Pats to the Super Bowl. Mind you, I am not I don't keep up with anything, but I did notice that I think they're playing Seattle. So it's like coast coast rivalry, and apparently this, right? You're playing the Seahawks. Am I right? Big coast to coast rivalry. So should be exciting. I hope to catch the Super Bowl. We used to always do it in my neighborhood. We had all the families would get together. This was pre-shutdown, but all the families in the neighborhood would get together. We'd go to someone's house. They'd host it, and it was all of it, like chili nachos. Uh, the kids were over. One year they made like the stadium out of Lego. Like it was such a huge thing. And then I don't know, like after the shutdown, people moved away or some divorces, everything else, and just stopped. So, and plus people changed. I don't know. People are different now. They don't communicate the same as what they did before, unfortunately. Everybody's a tinge angrier than they were before. John says, got it, clear as mud. You're welcome. I do my best. I do my best. I'm seeing a picture here of Ireland. The there's a TV in front of me here, and on that TV there are pictures that uh, constantly are switching. So a lot of times I'm like, I'll recognize. I'm like, oh, I've been there before, and this is the Gap of Dunlow. You can't see it, but I was in the Gap of Dunlow a few years ago in Ireland, and it was one of those places where if you ever go to Ireland, I think you have to make a point to go to the Gap of Dunlow, because I felt like I traveled back 1,000 years in history. It was beautiful. It was incredible. So whenever I see these kinds of things up there, I always am like, gives me inspiration. I wanted to book a vacation. You want to hear a personal story? We have time today. Everybody's snowed in there anyway. And the software is the software. We're just using it and listing and doing our thing. But I booked a vacation, or I wanted to book a vacation to with the family for March break. I haven't been on a family vacation in a couple of years, so I thought, it's a good time to take a few days. We're going to go on a vacation. So I booked it through Expedia, and unbeknownst to me, but my credit card has a limit. Like you can only do a certain amount in one transaction. So it tried to charge me the whole thing, but only the flights went through. So only the flights there went through. Sorry. So anyway, I'm in this weird position where I don't really know what's going on, because I never got anything from Expedia. They charged me for the American Airlines flights. I contacted American Airlines. They're like, we don't see any booking. I'm like, well, I got billed for it. I contact Expedia and they're like, we don't see the booking. So I'm charged these like phantom flights. So I don't know if it's going to come back off my credit card, or if I don't know what's going on. So that's so far that's the vacation in a nutshell so far. But I would like to do something. The kids are only young once, and I can already see with my oldest, he's not really too interested in hanging around with dad anymore or mom. He wants to do his own thing with his friends. So already like a vacation is enforced. We're like, no, we have to go on this thing as a family, which I don't know about you, but when I was young, like vacations were almost non-existent, right? Maybe it was a different time or whatever, but we almost never went on vacation. It was like that would have been a huge thing. So I don't know. I don't know. What do I know? Dende Cordipo says, "Good day, Josh. Clearing 17 inches of snow today. We'll catch the replay. Everybody, and that's a lot of snow, Dende Cor. That is a pile of snow. Um, yeah, I keep getting this comment. So I just pulled a comment off the other account here, talking about making list easier available in Germany. That I think it's a long, long ways out. There are so many other things that we need to do or we want to do before we get there. So for us, the roadmap was after the Flex launch is to really comb through and make sure everything is buttoned up and working the way we need it to work. And then kind of catch our breath because, that's a lot of work to launch something like that. It's a huge innovation and we just want to catch our breath and make sure everything is working the way it should be working. So that's ongoing. And I think the next steps, we have some big things that we want to do. I would say that something like Germany would be way at the end of that, unfortunately. The amount of work required to build out into Germany and integrate into a foreign language would be so difficult. It would be so, so difficult. So that one's way down the line. So currently with the Australia, UK rollouts, you got to think too, customer support on that. When you launch something like that, well, people will call never having used it before, but there's a big time difference. So they might call 3, 4 in the morning. You want to help them through the software. Like the goal is to get people using it and making money and, enjoying it even. So, but yeah, that's that in a nutshell. I know everyone's busy today. I know everyone is just shoveling and clearing. I had to really push it to get it all done before I did this broadcast. And even that, my road isn't plowed. Good to see you, B-Nudes. Howdy, good to see you. My road at home wasn't plowed, so I wasn't even sure. I had full gas and the car was like, and I was like, if I stop, I'm not getting out of this. This was probably 12 inches on the road. Don Wright Selection says, what is up? What's up, Don Wright? I will say another thing happening this week is on Thursday, we will be recording our actual 100th episode of the Profit Playbook podcast. So the fellas are actively working on trying to get some surprises for that show. So let's see what they all come up with. I'm excited to record that. That's a long time coming. That's, a little over 2 years, I think, for us, because we missed a few, but a little over 2 years of episodes every single week. Binut says, we have everything plowed. I'm not shoveling or snow blowing. Not here. It's still on the ground, but we were due for it. December was easy. Really didn't get any snow in October, November, or December. And growing up in this region, which I did, I remember getting all dressed up for Halloween as a kid with the makeup, like I'd be Dracula. And I put the teeth in and the blood on the face and the white makeup on my face and I had the long thing. And then I went to go out trick-or-treating and I'd have to wear snow pants and a snowsuit because it was snowing out and no one could see what I actually was. That happened more than once. That happened on quite a few occasions. I was born in the beginning of May. I also remember celebrating my birthday with snow on the ground. So you don't see that as much anymore. Another thing you don't see as much anymore, near where I live, there's a place called Burlington Bay, or Hamilton Harbor. It used to freeze over and people would drive out and go ice fishing. You never see, I don't know if they're not allowed to anymore because of shore protection, but you don't see that as much anymore. Don Wright says, my neighbor used his snowblower on our driveway. Thank you, neighbor. I think that neighbor deserves a hot chocolate or a nice hot coffee. Well done. Beanut says, I don't know what we got, Josh, across the lake, basically. Yeah, if I so when I go to Wilson, which is one of my secret places that I really like in Western New York. But if I go into Wilson or Burt or any of those kind of places, at night if I look across, you can see Toronto. So, but the other way, if you go to Toronto and look across, you can't see Wilson or um, really Rochester or anything. Um, In it to flip, it says no snow to shovel in Minnesota this time, and we're even going to get above 0 degrees today. Yay. I think we got lucky in this region. In it to flip it, I believe they got more snow south of us. Like the heart of that storm was below us. We got a lot, but I've seen way, way worse here. I've seen way worse here. Sometimes you get it coming in from the east. I call it a nor'easter, and then it hangs around in a circle over the Great Lakes, and then it'll go back out again. Those ones are brutal. That's like a good 4 to 6 feet when that happens. Eric Gunter says, does Dave ever sleep? I had an issue with a listing failing last night. He responded at around midnight central. I had managed to figure it out. Apparently, eBay didn't like cigarette lighter adapter. Yeah, so no, Dave's working all the time. He's working very hard. Um, you know, hey, everybody here, whether it's in the document or list easier software, they just want to line up wins for you guys, right? They want you to use the software and win, 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 win. That's when everybody's happy. So if he gets something and he needs, it's not working out for you, or something's wrong or you need help, he's there. We're all there. So you can always reach me, Josh at List Easier. I'm coming on here doing this live every single day. You ever got a question, hit me with it. I'll do my best to answer it. Customer support is there. So we're always here. We're not going anywhere. But yeah, that's the thing, Eric. There are little things in the API that get downranked or just aren't allowed. And probably cigarette is one of them. So you have cigarette lighter adapter. I don't know if the whole thing isn't allowed anymore because there's some sort of restriction on those things being allowed for safety recall or whatever. I don't know. I don't know if it's the word cigarette, because that someone out there has tried or did list packs of cigarettes on eBay. So eBay had to do something to downrank that word or prevent it from being listed. So I think these kind of things occur in the API, but also quietly occur on the website where things get downranked that aren't supposed to be there. So it's our job, if you're listing something legit, to find a way around it. The good thing about the API versus listing directly on the site is that if you were to put cigarette lighter adapter directly on the site and they didn't like that, then it will get downranked or kind of moved to the bottom of the pile and nobody will ever see it. But if you list it through us, it goes through the API and the API will kick back a rejection. And that rejection gives us a message as to why it was rejected. So this really gives us a lot of information on, so what you got there isn't an error. This isn't a glitch or anything. This is good. This is telling us, hey, these words are not permitted or are going to get downranked. If we send it through the API, you're going to have to change the wording a little bit. And these are things none of us would know if we did it directly on the website. But the error handling on List Easier tells us, hey, the word cigarette, they don't want it on the website, or they'll downrank it, So, but certainly they don't want it going through the API. If they don't want it going through the API, they don't want the word on the site. The API is serving as a blocker. So I think that that's a good example of our error handling working. And I think there are over 1,800 at this point API errors, like as in not a glitch, but they don't want it in there, or they won't let it through. Cigarette ivory is probably one of them. I don't know what they all are, but we're catching them, and it only improves our error handling, but it also improves our understanding of how the eBay website works and what they want and what they don't want, and what they do with things they don't want. Don Wright says we pay him annually. Nice, nice, nice. Beanut says, "Oh my gosh, Wilson garage sale days! Wow, crazy, insane." I like, there's a, so you know the area, and everyone else is going to kind of tune out here, but in Wilson, down by the harbor, they have that bass fishing derby every single year. I'm not a big fisherman, but they've got the restaurant there, and they've got a couple little shops, and you can walk out onto the pier, and everyone's got their cottages and their boating in there, and I just love that. And it's not that far from me. It's like an hour away. So I love going down there and just getting having a meal in the restaurant and watching the boats come and go and do a little bit of shopping and walk around town and grab an ice cream. Like, I love that there. I do. It's like a little mini vacation. And it's not too far away. Uh, Don Wright says, "Can I have $1 million?" You said anything. You can have $1 million, but you're going to have to make it happen yourself. But I'm sure you can have it. Uh, Don Wright says, "I sell cigarette ads on eBay." Yeah, I think and Finds of Yesterday says, "I've used cigarette for cigarette case several times." Yeah, so if you list it directly on the eBay website, and again, it's going to be category dependent, everyone. That's the thing too. So the APIs are category dependent. So they may allow it in advertising. We can use the word cigarette in advertising. It's no big deal. But in lighters, it might not be, so, and that's where the errors are getting kicked back. If you were to list it directly on the website, you'd get downranked almost certainly, because clearly they don't want that in that category. So they're going to push the listing down and you're not going to see it. You would never know, right? It just wouldn't be performing well and you wouldn't know why. But the API sends us the error back. That's the API error. The pushback is literally us pushing the information to eBay and eBay saying, "Well, wait a second," like the guard at the gate. "Wait a second. We don't want this one." And then they'll give us a reason why, and that's our own error handling. Well, why don't you want it? And it will, as Eric saw, it'll give you a reason why not. So Eric reached out to Dave and said, why wouldn't it allow this? And it turns out it was a word or a phrase that was, verboten. Definitely depends on category, says Don. Yes, definitely. But also, those rejections on the API might not occur on the website. I've listed in the antique photograph category, I've tried to list ivory and it's got kicked back. But in bathroom, like vanities, if I put ivory, it allows it. I don't know because ivory is a color, almond is a color and ivory is a color that people look for in their bathrooms. They don't want just white. So I don't know if it's category dependent. That's a good question. Or how they rank it once it's on their site if you list directly to their site. Eric Gunter Eric Gunta says, "Yeah, it was vague. It just said something like in the title or description was not allowed, or that the seller wasn't allowed to list it." Yeah, exactly. Quirky Picker Chad says, "So your store sell-through rate is roughly 4%. When your store is fully operational, what do you expect? When your store is fully operational, what do you expect that percentage to be?" I don't know right now, Quirky Picker Chad. So I would expect the first 6 months or year, we need to get our sea legs. We need to prove to eBay that we're doing what we're saying we're doing. Our accounts have just been verified. We're just starting to receive payouts. So I think that we have to build that trust over time, and then we'll see where we're at. Better items will sell through better. We try and find the best items that we can. Those will sell through better. Items that are unique one-offs, antiques, like the records, a lot of these records are 100 years old. Those will move a little bit slower, but the margins will be better. So sell-through rate, I'm not really sure. We're so new. We're only 22 days live. Of that, I'm thinking it's probably around 14 working days. So in 14 working days, $5,500 generated, 133,000 listings. Very satisfied with what this looks like and the way it's going. Down the line, we could adjust sell-through rate in, I don't know, in let's say 3 years time. If we decide all this, we could just lot it up and move it out, and then the sell-through rate's 100%. So it's, I don't know what the sell-through rate is going to be. I'm not super concerned. My only concern is this number here. This, right? So we want to move this number to 100 million, and we want to get the best stuff we can possibly find. That's all we can control. I cannot control the sell-through rate. The only way I can control that is finding the best items that I can find and listing it at a price that's reasonable. That's all I can do. That's the only thing we can do. Eric Gunter says it was in handheld GPS units. It had the car charger. Interesting, Eric. Interesting. Eric Ressi says, shout out to all the Erics in the chat. What's up? Eric Life. It's Eric Life in the chat. Shout out to all the Erics in the chat. I see Lake Tahoe. Another place just beautiful. When I first, we're talking about random things. The chats, everyone's doing snow. They got their packing going, so we're a little bit quieter today. So I'm just going to tell stories to fill the time. But 2 years ago, I went to California. I was took Highway 4 in through Ebbets Pass. So any of you are familiar with that. It's like very windy, and it was terrifying. Took Ebbets Pass on the way back, and that was when you were on the cliff edge, but took that all the way to Lake Tahoe, and it was just beautiful. But it was also the 4th of July, so I didn't realize that it was going to be so busy there. So it was very hard to get into Tahoe. We went down into Emerald Bay and saw Vikings Home, and really just had a great time. It just had a great time. Everyone was like partying and enjoying themselves. It was beautiful. So really, really would like to spend more time there. For how hot it was, I was really surprised to still see snow on the mountains, which didn't feel like it was that far away, although I'm sure it was. And then, of course, on that trip, spent some time in Yosemite too, which was breathtaking. That one really blew my mind. If you've never been to Yosemite and you have the opportunity, you should really go. So I had a list of things from my stereo views that I wanted to see. Vernal Falls, Bridal Veil Falls, El Capitan, the Three Sisters, the Yosemite Valley, Mirror Lake, Glacier Point. I had to see Glacier Point because that's all the photos of the people on the rock dancing and everything else. So I wanted to see all these things. And I thought that it was going to be impossible. But a lot of it is all in the same spot. And it blew my mind. I couldn't believe that exists in North America. I was like, this is like Switzerland. It's stunning here. It's beautiful. I loved it. Artist view, tunnel view was so nice. So I've always had this feeling there. There's so much there. The coast is beautiful around Highway 1, Russian River, the Sierras. There's a lot of mining history there. These boom towns, like drive through El Dorado, and I was like, this looks like a boom bust town, like a gold mining town. It's still got those frames of the houses, like the Lego frame kind of looking. This is really nice. I had a great time there. I love it there. I would like to continue to go there every single year if possible. Like, I'd love to have a little A-frame out in the mountains and just go there for the summer every single year. My dream. Rob Special Interest says, hey, Josh, I finally worked out how to get batches up in the UK, the UKGB issues. Sorry you had to let Dave go and replace him with an AI support assistant. Be careful, you'll be next. Well, Dave still does support. So the AI thing is just because, Rob, we get a lot of questions from people like, how do I add pictures? So people will just be like, how do I add pictures? I need to know. And then the AI support says, here's how you add pictures. And they're like, okay, I don't need to keep going. But if you want to keep going, just click, this didn't answer my question. I need to talk to support. But we're doing our best to hit every angle. So, a lot of the customer support tends to just be like a little thing they need help on. Like, how do I add a shipping policy? That's something that AI can answer. But if you don't, if that doesn't do the trick, then you can go and click customer support, send the message all the way through, and it will. We have the videos out on List Easier University. We do a daily live. Anybody can ask me anything. There's no, I'm here. Here I am. I'll do my best. You can send email. People send me email all the time. Josh at List Easier. You can call me. Um, you can text me. People text me all the time, ask questions or just like keeping up. Hey, what's going on in your life? So we're trying to create as many points of contact as possible. But for the things that just like keep coming up, like um, how do I add a business policy? We're creating that front end of support just so that we don't get overwhelmed, with the same question over and over and over again. Like we found a lot of times we're cutting and pasting answers. So we're like, why don't we just create this system that can handle it a little bit easier? But if it doesn't answer your question, you can still get through, right? Or you can just reach out. We're everywhere all the time. So you're welcome to just reach out to us. John says, good morning, Josh. Very strange sales this weekend. Hopefully everyone did better than I. I had a slow weekend with sales. I don't know if that was because of the snow or power outages or what, but I had so many sales last week that I'm actually okay with a little bit, slower on the weekend. And also, I'm the worst one to ask as far as my own personal account is concerned because I haven't listed since October, like beginning of October. It's probably more like September, end of September. So I haven't listed really in 3 months. I don't even know how I could, to be honest with you. I feel like I'm so buried. So right now, my account is like paying my bills, and I'm okay with that. But listing, I haven't listed in a long time, so I'm the worst to kind of gauge where things are with that. Binu says hi to John. Arminius says, Hope List Easier is coming to Germany. It's a big one. That would, I talked about that a little bit earlier, Arminius. That would be, there's a lot of the back end in Germany, like their site, their APIs, it's all written in German. But we don't speak German. Like that would take probably years unless we had a native German speaker on board. But there are so many other things that are in our roadmap, like cross-listing, and when we say cross-listing, we mean optimized cross-listing. We're not just dumping it somewhere. We're not just taking something and dumping it somewhere else. Optimized. The stuff is going to move on those sites. And that's the goal anyway. eBay Motors, mobile, plus a lot of proprietary great ideas that are in the chute right now that we want to work on. So all that stuff has to come out. Binut says 79 days until camp opens again. Nice. Joe says nothing wrong with Ebbets Pass Road. Been over it a few times. Yeah, there were periods like somebody will come down with a truck with a trailer, and I was driving this Kia that I rented, but it had the automatic. I didn't know how to turn it off, and I didn't want to play with the dash. But you know how it automatically keeps you in your lane. Well, the thing with that is that I don't know if the satellite, because the signal wasn't great there, but sometimes it would like pull you off to the side of the road. And there are parts of Ebbets Pass where the edge of the asphalt is the edge of the road. It's a cliff after that. So I was like white knuckling it. My quads were so sore afterwards because I was tense. I was like legit tensed up. And then when we finally got through Ebbets Pass and onto Highway 4, as you get towards Angel or Dorrington and stuff, Arnold and those places, then I could breathe a little bit, when we got into Calaveras County, and I was like, but it was, whew, it was a tough drive. The trailer would come, and then I would try and just get by it, and the auto lane thing was like pushing me to the edge of the cliff, and I don't know, I couldn't take the stress, I guess. Binut says, we thought about a cottage on the Finger Lakes a few times, but we'd miss the camp community and it'd be far more pricey. Yeah, I like the Finger Lakes. I think it's beautiful there. It's a little bit of a drive. I've been down a few times. I think, the places I like, there are some places that I just love. Northern California is one of them. I really like the Gulf side of Florida. I really do. I think if I were a little bit older, that's kind of where I'd want to be. The Muskokas in Ontario is beautiful. That whole area around Traverse City, I think, is really nice. Like I like it there. And then there's lots of places I'd never been before that I'd love to go. So, but those are up there. And of course, New England. There are parts of New England that are just so beautiful. New Hampshire, oh, the White Mountains. Um, we pay $1,400 for April through October for camp. That's not too bad at all. That's really good. That's something that used to be big that you don't see people do as much anymore. Is take the whole summer to go to camp. I'm thinking like Dirty Dancing style. Where your family takes the whole summer off and they rent a camp kind of cottagey thing, and then kids are just running wild in the lake and doing their thing, and they have to be back for dinner. You don't see that as much. Timothy Doyle says, "Are you going to create an add-on app to figure out comps that can be used on a phone?" So the mobile mobile is in the early development stage. Let's put it that way. So it is coming, but we are, it's on the roadmap. The important thing to do, this is then Timothy, this is you getting me into a whole different discussion, but it's very important that every time we do a rollout that we button it up perfectly. So if you don't roll out and perfect it and button it and search for little tiny edge cases and figure all this stuff out, if you don't do that, you'll end up building more infrastructure off of something that isn't where you want it to be. So I feel like we are kind of in a quiet period here where we're not hearing back that much, a little bit here and there, but it's not like crazy. So we are just, you know, kind of, I don't know, flattening it, making sure that everything is exactly where we need to be. And then we start innovating and start building again. And that's kind of the cycle. So the worst thing we could ever do is to rush something, and say, well, we'll get this thing out here, and then we have to change infrastructure, like our main base infrastructure, but we've built something on top of that. It has these knock-on effects, and we don't want to have that. So we just take our time. We may not be, it may not come out super fast, but when it's delivered, it's reliable and it's going to do what we say it's going to do every single time. And that's the number one thing for us. So we will get there. That discussion, Timothy, is very early still. Rob Special Interest says, I was joking. It worked quite well. Might give Dave a rest. Dashboard issues still ongoing, although it showed my listings yesterday. Yeah, I think, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot on the docket. There are some API errors that get kicked back. That is not us. That's eBay saying, no, this item cannot be listed. But those are helpful because then we learn why. We learn more about the eBay platform and why. And that only improves our prompt engineering. So, but yeah, things are very much, a week after launch, I'm feeling so good right now. So good about it. Especially with the volume of users that have come on board in the past week, it has just spiked. And you can see that they go to the videos, like you're going to list easier videos or watching the videos, but they just come aboard and they just go do their work. We can see the data leaving the site. That's exactly what you want, is ease of use. They're just showing up. It's not that hard to use. They add it to their workflows, spits out listings, and they go on with their day. That's what we're seeing. That's perfect. And once we have that flow for a little bit, and we're seeing that that's how it's working, then we can start innovating and build the next innovation. Derek W. Pat says, "Hi Josh, been listing and listening to you in the background, getting some work done around the house. Finally at a break time." Nice, Derek. Nice. Don Wright, and good to see you, Derek. By the way, welcome. It's good to see you. Always good to see you, Derek W. Pat. Rob Special Interest says, what is your opinion? List easier not putting the barcode on listings. Does it affect your Google searches? No. I mean, if it's not putting it in the description or are you talking about the EAN? I think there's a little, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not the technical person, but there's a button that you can click to include the barcode or not. Uh, the barcode EAN is primarily used to fill in your item specifics, but it's barcode in time. This is my opinion, will become a redundancy because every item is now a barcode. It's almost an archaic system that you don't need anymore moving forward. Um, as time goes on, I think people, more and more businesses will adopt software like List Easier, where barcodes are a redundancy. It's unnecessary. All that information is encoded in the photo. So that's a good question. That might be better asked for the technical guys. Don Wright Selection says we have a cottage up in Minden, about a half an hour away from Halliburton. I've been to Minden a bunch of times. Beautiful up there. Halliburton is beautiful too. I love Halliburton. It's really, really nice. Growing up, I used to always go to, this is not exactly the same spot, but a place called Point of Barrel. It's about half an hour north of Parry Sound. And my sister still has a place up there. Eric Bricey says, just checked. External views are up 1,100% for today on eBay. That is awesome, but that might be, there's something not right there. That's a little bit too much. Nathan Mall says, if you were in the States, how would you source your books at scale? There's a number of different ways you can do it, Nathan. I would probably look and see where other used bookstores are doing it. So go to the people who are doing it already and see how they're doing it. Then I would also check places like marketplaces, which sell stuff in bulk, and just use that as a filter. But also, Nathan, be willing to travel outside of your comfort zone to get good deals. So if you live in Tennessee and there is a deal in St. Louis, but you live in Nashville, but it's a great deal. Consider getting that U-Haul, taking the day, going up, getting it, and bringing it back. It might be worth it. So I think that's really not just waiting for the fly. Like, you're not a spider in a web waiting for the fly to come into your web, but really reaching out and saying, hey, what in my expanded area can help me? Because that one big deal of getting the U-Haul truck, if you pick up 10 or 20,000 books, you don't have to do any sourcing now for months probably. So it saves you time and money over time if it's a good deal. But that's usually the way I would go about it. And then, of course, just get out there. I mean, if you want to be a book dealer, start talking to book dealers, go to book shows. You just meet these people and they say, you know what, I was a book dealer in the 70s and I got a barn full of this stuff. If you're interested, come on by. I'll sell it to you 10,000 at a time. That's how I seem to always run into my stuff, is just reaching out and talking to people and being honest and saying, here's what I do. Binu is saying barcodes are being replaced by more effective coding, embed far more information. Yeah, exactly. So, the barcode system, you'd have a product, and then the product would enter all these item specifics and all this information like publisher and everything else, the weight and all this stuff inside the or that would all be in a database. And the barcode is used to recall that information out of the database. Well, now that information can be recalled just by looking at it. So like this, I always use this thing because it's here, but there's no barcode on this. But this is a barcode now itself. That's how it works now. There's no barcode on this, but this is essentially a barcode now. There's no barcode on this, but optically it's a barcode now. So it's barcodes are going to become redundant. You don't really need them anymore. That system is going to fall off eventually, I'm sure. I got Eric texting me. Eric, don't you know I'm doing a live show? Thrift a Little says barcodes have been hit or miss for List Easier picking it up even when it's required. Here's the problem, Thrift a Little. Barcodes, many of them are recycled. That's a huge problem. So this, for example, Hot Wheels. Hot Wheels is notorious for recycling barcodes. The problem with this is if that barcode is recycled 3 or 4 times, it's putting the AI in a very difficult spot where the barcode is saying one thing and the actual information is saying another thing. Uh, Also, the barcode picture has to be very, very clear. That's another thing. So for everyone out there, the black lines are not what it reads. It reads the white spaces between the black lines. That's how it picks up barcodes. So the spacing between those lines is really, really important, especially if the numbers aren't clear or they're kind of scratched out or whatever. So you have to get a really good, clear picture of that barcode that will increase the accuracy. From a distance, it becomes very, very hard. You notice it with the barcode app on eBay. You scan it and you're doing this with it back and forth and moving it. It's still not, and then finally it grabs it. That's how finicky those barcodes can be. And if it's recycled, you'll get different information. Columbia House, you know, uh, some of the CD manufacturers recycled barcodes. Book manufacturers recycled barcodes. They put a barcode on something that didn't sell very much, so they did it again on something that sold really well. It's duplicate information. Puts the AI in a very hard position where it has to guess. Where it's got to choose. Is it the barcode information or what I see? Because you're telling me both are there. And guessing AI is not what we want. That's where we get, something that's precise but inaccurate. Nobody wants that. Don Wright says we don't have a cottage anymore, but I miss it. My great-grandfather built one in the 1920s. Nice, nice, nice. Fat Eddie says hello. Good to see you, Fat Eddie. Welcome, welcome. Binut says they'll become redundant, barcodes, to folks like us, not supply chain, retail, etc. But towards us and consumers, it becomes less a search tool and more a tracking tool. Yeah, a quantity tracking tool maybe, but I think that whole system's going to get replaced. Technology has moved beyond barcodes now. It's just you just don't need them. Whereas before you definitely needed it. Now, especially with the quality of cameras, as cameras improve, like the frame rates of cameras improve and the megapixels or the resolution, like there should be no reason why you can't just do this really quickly and that it picks it up as that frame rate improves on cameras. Well, it will get there. So that just becomes, picks it up right away. You have the grid inside that you can't see inside the camera that gets sizes and everything else. That should all be, I think in time, you're going to see barcodes move out. Okay, everyone. Appreciate you all. Thank you for joining me today. We will see you tomorrow in tomorrow's live, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.